Welcome to Get Your Business Flowing with Power Automate from Combined Knowledge. This is one of our feedback webinar series sessions. We do have some previous sessions that are freely available for you to go and view on our YouTube channel. You can find that obviously on YouTube by searching for Combined Knowledge or via our website. So again, thank you all very much for joining me on this session. Today we're going to be covering getting to know your business with Power Automate. So we're going to be talking about what Power Automate is, having a look around, getting a little bit familiar with the tool itself. Plus we're going to look at doing a few actions within Power Automate itself. So for those of you that are able to stay to the end of the session, we'll be entering into a chance to win a £50 Amazon voucher. So there'll be something you need to do at the very end, simply letting me know that you're willing to participate in that, basically a name in the hat situation. And then once we've got all the entries in, a random name will be pulled from the hat using our good friend Google to randomize the names, and then that person will have the opportunity to take the £50 Amazon voucher. So if that's for those of you, it's a shameless plug in a way of getting you guys to kind of stay to the end. Yeah, hopefully you're able to do that. So what we're going to be covering today then is creating a flow to alert your team to a bad review. So we're actually going to be combining a couple of different items within the Microsoft 365 solution with Power Automate, linking from Microsoft Forms over into Microsoft Teams. We're going to have a look at using the templates to create automated processes as well. Within Power Automate, I'm going to show you how vast the number of templates are and how really useful they are for getting started, as well as what we can do with SharePoint lists and libraries, and how we can start using Power Automate to improve our SharePoint journey, as well as then moving into the Power Automate mobile app. I'm going to be trying to show my actual mobile screen so you can see A, how the app is working, and B, what options you've got to have available to that. We're then going to have a quick discovery of some of the latest and greatest things going on with ourselves at Combined Knowledge, some of the new courses and information around what we're doing. So again, thank you all for joining me. On that note, a quick introduction. My name's Simon Gray. I'm a digital solution consultant with Combined Knowledge. So I am the Office 365, or as it's been renamed to recently, Microsoft 365 trainer at Combined Knowledge as part of the training team. I help author content for our Training Plus system as well as our training materials. A little bit of history for myself. I've been a web developer for about 10 years in the past, as well as then moving on to being an IT manager. My most recent role, however, before joining Combined Knowledge, was actually an engineer for British Gas, so very different, but it did give me a unique experience with being both a back-end developer towards being an end user. So I've got a unique perspective in the world of IT. So you can find myself at LinkedIn, or by all means you can send me any questions or information you'd like to find out via the email address on the screen there. Right then, so let's jump 2 feet into what we're here to discover today. So the Power Automate then, for those of you that are not initiated, is part of the Power Platform. So Microsoft's Power Platform, which has a number of different apps available, or services available for us to use. So we've got Powerapps, Power BI, Power Automate, which is what we're here to talk about today, as well as the new kid on the block, Power Virtual Agents. Now, a little bit of history here. It's not always been referred to as the Power Platform. Towards the end of last year, in fact, there was a big rebranding by Microsoft at one of their events towards the end of the year, where they unveiled Power Virtual Agents, but also rebranded the Power Platform into what you're seeing at the moment. So it's always been referred to as Power Apps and Power BI. However, it hasn't always been referred to as Power Automate. In fact, it started its life out as Flow. Now, we're going to use the term flow throughout our conversations today and into the future. Flow hasn't been completely removed. However, they rebranded the solution to Power Automate. So if you are looking around at items on the internet, maybe looking for solutions in Google, etc., then you are going to be coming across a situation whereby we actually have a couple of the links you'll be clicking on will actually say Flow instead of Power Automate. Now, it's the same that can be said for Powerapps. What Microsoft did as part of the rebranding for Powerapps is they actually put a space in between the words Power and App. So previously, it was actually named very similar to PowerPoint or SharePoint, where there was no space actually in the name itself. So they've made the branding a little bit more consistent, and although it was a little bit difficult for ourselves at Combined Knowledge to get over that hurdle, it does make a little bit more sense now, having a complete package of products that they can now add in and brand, and people are going to be able to identify what they are just by their name. So some consistent branding there from Microsoft. So let's have a quick look at what the actual items are. So Powerapps allows us to build applications very, very quickly, connecting to various data sources within our Microsoft 365 environment and beyond. We can approach our app development in minutes or hours as opposed to months. And we're using Excel-like expressions to add logic and run on both a web page or a website or an app on our mobile devices, which means they are very shareable. They're highly integratable. We can put them into SharePoint. We can put them into any number of different places we want to use them. So think of Powerapps as a way of grabbing information, a very interactive way of grabbing information. Now, it is also a low-code solution. You can get a lot more out of it if you do know or have some experience with coding. I myself really do enjoy the Powerapps course that we do at Combined Knowledge. It's probably one of my favorite ones to teach. But I don't need to rely on my background too much to get the most out of it. It really is a low-code solution. We then move on to Power BI. So Power BI is Microsoft's reporting engine. Here we can create immersive dashboards and reports that are clickable, they're interactive, we can make them very engaging for our users. We can connect multiple different data sources from not only within, again, the cloud of Microsoft 365, but also beyond that as well. And we can pull all this information into it, manipulate it, and then put that out as a really interactive and useful report. Now I'm going to skip over Power Automate because I'm going to go into the introduction for that in a little bit of time. So we're going to jump over into Power Virtual Agents. So Power Virtual Agents, like I said, is the new kid on the block for the Power Platform, and essentially it is a way of building a automated chatbot system. So here we can create a chatbot that can engage customers or suppliers or even internal users all alike, again in a low to no code scenario, whereby we can then again interact with the different data sources that we have available to us in our Microsoft 365 solution. Now, again, there's a common theme kind of being pushed throughout these. It's the interactivity, the connection between the different applications and services that we're going to have available to us within Office 365. And that is no different for our friend Power Automate. So Power Automate, what is it? Why would we use it? Let's first start looking back as to why or what options we actually had in the past before the Power Automate or Flow was kind of made available. Now, in the past, what we would actually have relied on is a number of different solutions. Now, we're only concentrating on Microsoft solutions here. There are going to be a number of different solutions, but in the past, we'd have kind of had this triangle to go by. So the triangle is broken down into kind of complexity as well as return on what we can do. So at the bottom, we've got the items like SharePoint Online with out-of-the-box workflows, which for those of you that are not aware, they are going to be switched off very, very shortly. Now, these were end-user focused and were accessible via our browsers but they were very locked in, and they couldn't actually move out of the SharePoint environment. In fact, they were very limited on what they could do. And so that simplicity did help their usage. That meant that people could pick them up and use them, but they were kind of very much hemmed in. We then move up the triangle into a more flexible scenario where we could use conditional, multi-action, and even still being code-free. However, we did need to use additional software and have a little bit more knowledge of the systems and items that we're trying to achieve and connect to, and we'd use SharePoint Designer and InfoPath Designer to achieve those. So I know a lot of people are in the process of moving across from, say, InfoPath to Powerapps and other workflow systems, again, into the Power Automate system. So we do cover a lot of that in our courses for the migration, particularly into the Power Automate environment. Now, at the top of the triangle is the obviously more complicated, more highly skill-based and more expensive approach to automated systems. Now, these would go above and beyond that of a standard, what we'll call a workflow. So whereby we are actually moving items from place to place or having actionable events. This would be a kind of integrated business specific process that we would use, so like purchase orders and things like that. And with the integration and the introduction of the Powerapps and Power Automate systems, we've kind of been able to almost replace most of those endeavors. We've gone from having a very locked in, very small situation where everybody was able to access that and work on those. However, with the abilities and the complexities that Power Automate offers, we're now actually able to break out from that single point. So we're no longer stuck into SharePoint, for example. We can now move between different applications and services within Microsoft 365. And we can easily connect with other Office 365 or Microsoft 365 apps, again, without knowing any code at all. And this is part of your Office 365 plan available to you. So what is Power Automate? So it is effectively just automated workflows, moving information from one point to another. But it goes beyond that of a standard set of questions that we can ask. We can basically using building blocks, we can build our workflow process to connect to up to 305 different services. Now, these aren't necessarily all Microsoft services and included within the Microsoft plan that you've got available to you. However, a lot of them are going to be third-party services as well. So we're no longer restricted to the environment that we had before. We can now break out beyond our confines of the Microsoft suite and start interacting with the wider world. Now, what that means is we don't have to replicate data. We don't have to have systems upon systems upon systems. We can easily, safely, and securely plug in information or move information from point to point reliably and easily, and again, all nice and secure. So we've got a bit of a diagram up here in the top right hand corner where we're using Power Automate as an example, so we can integrate and communicate with workflows. So we're receiving data from Microsoft Forms or from SharePoint Online or even from Power BI, and we can interact with our Microsoft Powerapps as well for various different levels of users. So some of these third-party services and solutions that you're going to come across, maybe SQL, Azure SQL, so you want to connect into a database of some sorts, or Salesforce is one that gets mentioned a lot as well during our courses. So there's lots of different options and items available to us. But let's have a quick look at what Power Automate looks like and how we can start accessing Power Automate. So let's quickly open up Office 365. So here I am logged into my Office 365 portal. Here we've got a trial tenant set up on an E5 trial license, just so we can kind of show things off to you. So now, note that I've been accessing Power Automate already, so it's available to me on my home screen. However, if you're not sure where Power Automate is located, then you can access it via your app launcher in the top left-hand corner. And again, if it's not available to you here, we can select the All Apps option and simply navigate down to it. Now it is in alphabetical order, fortunately, and here we can access Power Automate. So I'm going to select that, and it's going to take me to the Power Automate home screen. Now this isn't necessarily where we need to start every single journey we want to take within Power Automate. We'll see that a little bit later on. However, we can surely start our journey from here. So what we're seeing when we first land is lots of different information. Microsoft is trying to get us to get started. They want us to start using Power Automate and to jump in with the use of various templates. So if we just scroll down in the middle, we've got some templates popping up here, which we'll be exploring in a little bit of time. We can search by the different services that we're going to be interested in. So if you're particularly interested in finding out whether a service the organization uses and how you might want to start utilizing that, you can come and view all the popular connectors and start search for those to see what you are going to need. Now, I do want to draw your attention at this point to the premium option that we've got here. Now, there is a premium licensing that you will need to be concerned with in certain situations. Some of the third-party and even the Microsoft connectors do require you to have an enhanced license available to you in order for you to access them, or for anybody else that wants to use that workflow, that flow that we're going to be referring to in a little bit of time. We'll cover that in a little bit of time, however. So back onto the home page then. Let's finish off our little tour. So down here at the bottom again, we've got a little bit of learning. We're going to see this kind of layout in a little bit of time. But what again, Microsoft is just trying to really push to us how easy it is to get started with Power Automate, and here are the links for us to be able to download and access the Power Automate mobile app at the bottom. So I'm going to draw your attention to the left hand side now. This is where we can view our actionable items. So this means my first port of call isn't actually me creating items or workflows. This is actually approval processes that have been sent to my user account. So in this case, it is the Simon Gray at my trial tenant account. So I've received a approval request, and from here I can actually start responding to that approval request as well. We've got a breakdown here where we can see a history of the items that have been sent, as well as a history of those that have been again sent and received to my account. So we're going to come back to this point a little bit later on. So let's move down the list again. So here, moving to My Flows now is where we start actually looking at the different flows that we've got available to us. So I've got a couple of them specified here. So I've got Get Today's Weather, and I've got one called Forms, which we're going to be looking at in a little bit of time. But along the top, we've got some tabs. Now, these tabs basically they're where we are storing our flows. So any flows that I'm working on that I've created are going to be available to me here. However, any flows that I am a member of a team of, so an Office 365 group or a Microsoft 365 group, are going to be available to me under this this tab instead. Now, if I share my my flow out, again, they're going to move to this Teams Flow tab. We've then also got business process flows, which are an overall business process. So these ones that have been approved by the business for everyone to use and to access, and so they can utilize these. And then we've got, again, a slightly newer version of our flows. We've got something called UI flows. UI flows is going one step further beyond automation. It's actually going to take control of yours or another computer and action physical steps. So if you are interested in covering more information about a workflow system that would actually be able to connect to legacy systems where we don't have a connector, do keep your eyes peeled and ears to the ground. We are in the process of trying to come up with a new course that's going to hopefully include the UI flows. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more about UI flows, which again go beyond that of a standard workflow, which typically happens behind the scenes. This one will actually action physical clicks on your computer or a kind of standalone computer, and it allows us to connect cloud systems to kind of more legacy systems that don't yet have that integration. So it's a great stepping stone there for connecting basically old to new. So further down the list on the left hand side, we've got the create button, which we've also got kind of dotted around the different areas and environments. Essentially what this create button will do is allow us to start the process. Now this is a good point to come to for actually getting to know what a flow is within Power Automate. So here we can start off the number of different flows available to us. So we've got an automated flow, which will be triggered by an event. Now this event could be anything from a Microsoft form being submitted or a item being placed into a SharePoint list or library. We'll explore some of the triggers in a moment. Then we've got an instant flow. So this is a manually triggered event. So we would trigger this one when we need to do that. And again, we'll look at one of those in a moment. And then we've got scheduled flow. So scheduled flows allow us to choose both date, times, or a reoccurrence of a flow and how often we want it to run. And then obviously we've got our ability to create UI flows and again the business process flows. Now again, at any point we can scroll down and start this process off from a template, and this is where we start to understand what these little template tiles are kind of trying to tell us. So in the bottom left hand corner of each tile, we've got what type of template it is. So the automated template is triggered by an event, and the instant requires somebody to actually trigger that, a manual process. So in this case, I know from experience that this is a button press. So pressing this button will result in getting today's weather forecast for my current location. So based on what we've just learned, we can see that each of these different tiles is going to start off in a different way. So let's start looking at actually creating a flow so that we can start learning about kind of what we've got available to us. So I've got a little bit of a scenario that we're going to start off by kind of following along. We've got a kind of imaginary board game shop that we use for some of the courses that we teach at Combined Knowledge. I'm not going to state too much of the reason why, but you know, a small number of us are fans of board games, so it's something we've got a bit of a passion about, and so know quite a bit about. So that makes it connect to the real world, makes it easier for us to connect with you guys when we're trying to kind of show you how you can use these tools in the real world. So our scenario then is we're going to receive an unsatisfactory review. Our customer is unsatisfied with their recent purchase with our shop. So what I want to do is have Power Automate create a post in Teams, letting sales teams know that we've had a feedback response that isn't favorable, and maybe they want to action that. Now this could also update maybe a SharePoint list or send an email or a Teams message. It's endless. It's almost like a Lego block kind of situation where if you wanted to do something, you simply build that up and action that out. So the post that I'm going to put into Teams needs to include some sort of naming or rating, as well as the reason for the bad rating. So trying to give the team as much information as possible. This will then lead the team to being able to investigate and maybe even rectifying the situation. So let's jump in and have a quick look. So let's start off by opening up my Microsoft Forms. So here it is, just over here on the left hand side. So I've got the order feedback form here. We've already had one response. So I'm just going to show you what this form looks like. So we've added in a number of questions for our customer to feedback us on. We've also got some branching on this form as well. So for those of you not familiar with Microsoft Forms, it's a quick and easy way of us creating surveys for grabbing information and whether that be internally or externally to our organization. It's a really flexible, really easy to use tool that we can within moments have the ability to grab and capture information. So I quickly put together this small or short form. However, this is the editing screen. So if I select any of these items, it's going to allow me to view the questions. Now I can click on the preview button just here at the top, and that's going to allow me to view the form as it would be received by our customers. Now, so for those of you with a keen eye, our last question was actually question number 6. Now, the reason for this is, again, because of the branching. On question number 5, I've got some branching going on that asks, would you like to be contacted by our sales team to rectify any issues? And we've got yes or no. So if they select no, nothing happens and they can go on to submit the form. If they select yes, however, we ask an additional question where we can actually capture their email address, because this is an anonymous form, so I'm not grabbing that information, and then be able to make contact with them to rectify the situation. Now, some of these questions are mandatory, some of them are not. So here's the question in question for our feedback. So here I've got it rated out of 10. And basically what I want to happen is when we receive an unfavorable response, so anything 5 stars or below, I want my team in sales to be notified. So we've got our form all set up and ready to go. We now need to start creating our Power Automate flow. So let's go back. I'm going to open up Power Automate once again, and we're going to start the process off. So to get this started, I'll go to create, and I'm going to start an automated flow because I want this to trigger when an event occurs. So that event is the Microsoft form being submitted and a response is received. So I select this. Now this list here is a number of different triggers that we can start our workflows from. In fact, there's a see more button at the bottom. But fortunately for us, fortunately for myself, we do actually have the one in question at the top. However, we can search for the triggers as well. So I can search for a number of different triggers for starting my flow. So if I wanted to use forms, I could do that, or if I wanted to do teams, we could look at some of the triggers that are available to us for starting our flow. So if you do have a kind of something in mind that you want to think of whether or not it's going to work, this is a great point to come to start seeing whether or not you could start your automated workflow from your desired triggered event. So again, mine is called forms. So when a new form is submitted, I want to trigger my workflow. So I need to give it a name. So bad feedback from feedback form. Trying to be as descriptive as possible will help allow you to, in the future, kind of revisit, especially if you've got a lot of them noted, quickly and easily get back to the right flow. So I'm going to click on create, and that has taken me straight into the editor for me to start creating my my flow, my Power Automate flow. So this is where the Power Automate terminology kind of started to separate things due to that rebranding last year. So we've got Power Automate now over here, but I'm actually creating a flow. So that's why it's called My Flows. I'm creating a flow, which is essentially just a shorter version of the word workflow. So they mean almost exactly the same thing. Now a little bit of a walk around the editor screen. So up in the top left, we can rename our form here. So I could put in maybe version 2 or version 1 if we ever plan to update and change this for any number of reasons. We've got our save button, and we've got this button called the flow checker. Now the save button obviously allows us to save, but when we get a problem, the flow checker steps in. So the flow checker is trying to help us make sure our flow is working as intended. Now, I haven't actually told the workflow which form I'm interested in receiving my response from, so we're getting our first error message. So from here, I can select my form, and with no other steps involved, I can happily press the save and moves on. However, it does want me to add in a action for us in order to save our flow. So do again bear that in mind. However, currently if I select the flow checker again, there's no warnings or problems for me to start. So this is our trigger event, and this is the form that the trigger event is actually looking at for it to start our flow. But what do we want it to do? So if you remember back to the slide, I want it to look at the form, and where we have a bad or a low response for our question, I want it to send a message to our team. So I do that by adding the building blocks, which are essentially these steps. So by adding in a new step, we can add in our new actions. Let's just get rid of this out of the way. And from here, I can select any number of actions from the Power Automate list. And as you can see, there is quite a number of different ones available to us. So the control actions that we can add are kind of built into Power Automate. These are our logical actions. So here we can do a condition and various other different logical calculations. We can also then target different connectors and systems. So again, I need to, in this case, get my response details for my form. So I'm using the search box to filter the actions I've got available to me, and I need to first grab my response details once it's triggered from the actual form response. So I go ahead and grab the form's response details, and what I'm going to do is select the form again, and effectively we have to tell at each step our workflow what we want, what information we're after, and what decision to make upon that. Now we have something called dynamic content and expressions that we can use within our forms. Now, this dynamic content is reading our workflow and is displaying to our flow what options we've got available. So because we've triggered our event from our form, the options I have available are the response options. So the response's identification number for my response to action the flow. So I take this, put that into my get response details, and what that allows me to do now is grab the information from my response details. So what I first need to do is add in one of those actions. So we can close this down out of the way. So I'm going to add in another step now. So now I've grabbed my form's information, I need to add in a control. I'm going to add in a condition control. So a condition control is a yes-no situation. So yes, do this, no, do that. So the value that I'm going to check against is my question. Now notice that my my dynamic content again has changed, hence the term dynamic. Because I've now identified to my workflow the form and the identification number of the form for my response, it knows what questions are available to us within our form. So the question I was after was going to be the overall how satisfied with your purchase at the House Rules shop. Now, before I can do that, I first need to use the expression. Now, the expression works a little bit like Excel, where we can add information together, we can concatenate information. It's using Excel expressions effectively to work out information. So I'm going to need to convert my my response into an integer, and I need to first I need to select the actual response. So I need to put in integer, and then in the dynamic content I need to put in the actual response. So here I've put my response by selecting it from my dynamic content, and I'm converting that into a number so that I can easily and quickly do my calculation. So what I'm essentially doing is I want the value from the response, which was 1 to 10, and if that is less than or equal to 5, I want to receive a notification in Teams. So that is going to come down to the yes option. So when this option is, when this value is a true value, I want it to perform a number of different actions. So, however, when it's going to no, so if I'm receiving a feedback response and it's above 5, although the team will periodically review the great reviews that hopefully that we're going to be receiving at House Rules Games, however, I'm more interested in making sure our customers are satisfied. So I want something to happen when we receive a bad notification. Bad feedback, sorry. So I'm going to scroll down, click on add, and this time I'm going to type in Teams. This is just so I can filter my list. And what I want to do from here is I actually want to post to the channel for my team. So I can scroll down here. We've got post a message as the flow bot, so I could send it to a single user if I wanted to, but I want to post to the whole team. So I've got post a message as the flow bot to a channel here. I'm going to select that. Now, just as a note, anywhere that you see preview at the end basically means that this option could change in the future from Microsoft's perspective. So it might mean that your flow may not work as intended later on. However, it's unlikely to change. So what I need to do, again, very similar to the form itself, is first select the team I want to post into. So I'm going to post into the sales team, and then it wants me to select which channel. So I want it to post, in this case, into the feedback channel. Now, what I now need to build is the message that they're going to see in the actual feedback channel itself. Now, I can type content into here, so I can put in actual text. Now, we call this static information or static text because it won't change. This is where the dynamic content again comes in. Dynamic obviously meaning it's likely to change. So I can build my message using static and the dynamic content to build a more comprehensive message. So I want to include what the message is about. So a bad or low feedback response has been sent in. So let's have a look. So what I want to do is first put the actual rating in. So I'm going to put again the rating in. So I've selected that from my dynamic list, and I'm going to carry that on. So out of 10, and we're going to include the customer has said. I'm going to put this in quotes just to make it a little bit easier for us to spot. What is the reason for your rating of your recent purchase? I'm going to put the actual response that could be received from the customer in. And then I'm also going to include their email address. Let's put a full stop in. Please contact them on. So I've put in a short message that will hopefully make my team go off and kind of look into the situation and kind of get things started to rectify the situation. And I'm happy with my flow. The flow checker is not coming up with any errors. So I'm going to press save. So that's gone off and saved my flow now. And if we press this back button, we've got this overview page. So from the My Flows screen, we've now got our bad feedback form feedback review. What we can do is we can jump straight into edit, or if we select the name, we can go through to the kind of overview page. Now from here at the bottom, we've got a 28-day run history. We've got a little bit of information about our flow, as well as the different connectors and owners for the flow as well. So what I want to do now is trigger this flow to see how it's working. So I'm going to open up Microsoft Forms again. See where it is. There it is. And I'm going to press preview, and I'm going to put in a low response, because obviously there's no point in putting in a high one at this point, because I want to see what happens, make sure my message is comprehensive and coherent, when we receive it. So damaged upon arrival. So we'll just put in a couple of options here. So let's put in my email. And then we're going to click submit. Now, hopefully that's gone off and posted a message into my channel in Microsoft Teams. So we can go and have a look at that first. So here we go over into Microsoft Teams. And we've got a highlight on the feedback channel, which is a good sign. Let's select that. So we've received a message to our channel from the Flowbot saying a bad or low feedback response has been sent in of 3 out of 10. So that's the option I'd selected. The customer has said damaged upon arrival. Please contact them on anonymous. So it's put in my email address as well. And we use Power Automate to send this notification. So everything has been received as intended, but let's look back at Power Automate to see what's going on here. Now I'm going to click the refresh button down here. And as we can see, we've now got a log of our successful rerun flow. Selecting this allows me to come in and view the flow, and it's exactly the same view as we saw earlier on. And clicking into each item allows us to see the journey that the flow took and what decisions it made when it came to the logic point. So here it's took the decision, yes, the value is below or equal to 5, so I'm going to post a message into the channel. Now again, we can kind of cheat in this situation. We can, let's have a look if we submit another review. Wanted a new board game. Don't want to be contacted. I'm going to click submit. Let's check into Teams. So no extra message sent. Let's check our run history again. So we're going to go back to my details screen and refresh the screen, and it successfully ran again. However, obviously this time in our condition event, it came down to the no area because we didn't need to send our message because it was below above, that number 5. So that's how we can get started in Power Automate. It was nice and easy and quick for me to connect Microsoft Forms to Microsoft Teams. Very few steps there. There is a limit of number of actions we can add into a Power Automate flow, so do bear that in mind. It is 250 actions. So if you are going to start creating comprehensive flows, do bear that number in mind. And like I said, we do have a large array of templates for us to choose from and to start working with and working from. So we can get our flows up and off the ground in a more comprehensive manner much quicker by using the templates. Now the templates are really flexible, so even if we're not exactly sure that this template is the one we want to use, we can select it, we can go in and we can start taking parts out, we can start moving things around. So they're not restrictive and can be changed once they've been selected. And then we can also add in additional connectors and additional services that we want to connect to as well. Now, on our Power Automate template, so we've even got a dedicated button over on the left hand side. We've got a number of options, so we can use the tabs here to kind of find triggers and different events that are going to suit our situation, or we can use the search option. So again, we saw this earlier on, so I could have used one of these many templates for Microsoft Forms. Now this will search both the trigger event but also the connectors it uses. Now again, for those of you with a keen eye, the description is obviously listed in the title, but these little subtiles that we see on our tiles are basically trying to indicate which connectors we're using. So again, you'll become familiar with which tile represents which application. Obviously, this is a SharePoint one. It just makes finding that template to suit your needs that little bit easier. And again, you can even search for multiple connectors to use together. So here I've searched for Teams and Forms, and it's notified the team when a response is submitted. So it's exactly the same situation as I started with. I could have used this template instead to get started from that point. So templates are a great way of kind of starting that process off. Now, what I want to talk to you about is the mobile application of Power Automate. Now, the mobile application for Power Automate is really quite cool. Unlike the Powerapps mobile application, basically allows us to also create the workflows as well. In Powerapps and Power BI, we can only consume information. We can't actually create items. However, within the Power Automate application, we can actually create workflows as well. So we've also got a unique option to the Power Automate mobile application, something called buttons. So we can have a trigger event known as a button, and this trigger event allows us to action flows directly from the mobile device itself. So let's have a quick look at the Power Automate app. So here it is in the middle of my screen. I'm just going to select that. Obviously, you're not going to be able to keep up with my finger presses. But if I quickly refresh the screen, hopefully, yep, we've got our bad feedback form. So I can actually select my bad feedback form. I can see a little bit of run history for it. I can go in, I can even switch the flow on and off. But I've got an edit flow option here in the middle. So I can actually go in, and on the mobile application, I can start editing the flow itself. I can add in steps, I can add in information. This is great if you've got a flow that's up and running and you're out and about and maybe you spot a spelling mistake in the message, or you want to add in some more information to make it more comprehensive. You don't have to be at your desktop computer or your laptop and have that with you to do that. You can do that from from the mobile app itself. So I don't want to make any changes. We can share it from here as well. But also what is cool is in our activity feed under approval, so just at the top here, we can also approve and reject the items that we receive as well. So here we've got a SharePoint library in which in this case I've got Ian. He's able to submit his expenses reports to his manager, which I've put as myself, and Power Automate is able to identify Ian's manager and send that item off for him to approve and reject. So I can come in here and I can approve. I can link to the item itself in the middle, so I can actually go off and view the document. I can choose how I want to respond to the request, and at the bottom I can even put in a comment, so I can come into here and type in my comment. Now what I want to do quickly is show you the SharePoint library that is in. So here I've got my SharePoint library. Ian's been submitting his expenses to me, and I've accepted and rejected. Currently, this is the item that we're talking about. We've got a submitted status for his August 2020 additional expenses, which is the item we're looking at now. And what I'm going to do is just confirm that, and that's going to send a update to my SharePoint library. And if I refresh the screen, that's now going to come through as an accepted status. Now, Ian will have received an email as well as part of the flow that was used for this one. And this one is a manually triggered flow. Now, what this means is from SharePoint, I can actually use the Power Automate option from within my library or list. And I'm going to use the request manager approval for a selected file flow that has been set up. Now that one's going to be sent off, and hopefully I can grab this in time so that you can see the notification pop up. So I'm going to click on put in a quick message and click on run. So that's going to send off the file to Flow for it to action and send it to me for approval. So yep, just at the top of the screen there, I've received a notification on my mobile device, and here we've got Ian's September 2020 expenses again for me to approve and reject. And just out of interest, I'm going to reject this one and say, hopefully my keyboard comes up, please include all items. I'm going to send that, I'm going to confirm that. So nice and easy for the approval process there. Doesn't even require people to be using their computer to do this, which again is something that SharePoint workflows would have required, or a very tricky system at least on a mobile device. And we can already see, let's just move this out of the way, that at the bottom there it's been rejected. And again, Ian will have received an email. So if we go to his Outlook, so not approved from myself, and lots of pop-ups. Even includes the comments that I made as well. So the mobile app is really quite a useful tool. It offers a unique way of us interacting with Power Automate. We also have the buttons option at the bottom. So just here in the middle at the bottom, we've got a buttons area where we can create buttons to action directly from the app itself. Now we can even share these out as well. We can share them through a browser so that they'll work. We could share that into Teams or something. And as you can see there, I've selected the Get Today's Weather Forecast, and that's popped up with a notification that tells me the current weather and temperature for where I'm currently situated in the UK. And I can tell you now it is rather cold today, so that is definitely accurate, of lows of 9. So yeah, the app is rather different to the normal typical Power Apps mobile apps, or the Power Platform mobile apps, sorry, that we're used to seeing. We can edit, we can view, we can interact with as well. Now that leads us into what we can do from our SharePoint environment. So if I just jump back over to Ian's environment here, let's go back into his SharePoint library that we've got going on. What we're able to do with Power Automate, for those of you that are, again, with a keen eye, you may have not have noticed that Power Automate has its own option within our kind of task ribbon at the top of our lists and libraries. And what we can do from here is it will actually detect the columns and metadata that we've got, and try and help and predict what templates we might be interested in. So here it's actually saying, oh, we've got a contract renewal date. Do you want me to set up a reminder? So I can go to Power Automate from the menu. I can say to it, yeah, I want to do a reminder for contract renewal, or I can go off and create a different type of template and even go off and see my flows and start configuring them. So if I select contract renewal, I'm going to get a pop out from the right hand side, hopefully, if it's going to load. Doesn't want to load for me at the moment, so let's go to create a flow instead. Here we go. We're seeing the templates that we've got available to us. Oh, there's the contract one. So it's gone off, it's selected the correct template for me, set a reminder, and this starts the process off of creating a flow directly from our SharePoint list or library. We can come into the list or library and go, actually, I want to action this, I want to do something with this item. We can do it directly from here instead. So it's got our familiar connectors that we can connect to and to use. Selecting continue allows me to put in a name, and I can even, in this case, specify a number of days in advance I want to receive a notification, and click create. So that's gone off and created that for me. And if I repeat the steps again, and this time go to see your flows, it's going to take me straight into Power Automate's website, and I'm going to be able to see the get email reminders. So that's gone off and set that all up for me within a couple of clicks, and I know that I'm going to receive a notification 9 days before the contract renewal date, and yeah, I'm going to be able to keep on top of my workload without having to constantly check back to that or keep a mental record. So we've looked at then using the different options available to us, creating a automated flow, creating a manually triggered flow and using that, as well as the mobile application. Now, for those of you that are interested in learning a lot more about Power Automate, we do have a one-day course available at Combined Knowledge, where we go through a number of different scenarios, up to and including more steps on the form feedback response situation and scenario that you saw there earlier. So we do go through that in a lot more detail. So if you are interested in getting your teeth into Power Automate a lot more, we do have a one-day course. We're actually running that a number of times up until February next year. So the details for those are both at the bottom of the screen at the moment, but also on our website. So we'll delve far deeper into Power Automate than what we've been able to cover in this last hour session. So we'll look at variables and more advanced expressions, as well as more advanced controls and logical steps like the for each, for example. We'll then cover how you can save, test, and fault find your flows as well. And then we'll also look at how you can share out your flows and what options you've got there. This session is hands-on, so you'll be doing lots of labs and learning, and it can be delivered both online, obviously, with the current situation that we're currently in, as well as both privately and publicly. So that leads us into our actual our Shameless Plug section. So yeah, we've gone through our Power Automate content there, so thank you for sitting through that with me. But we've got a number of new and exciting things going on at Combined Knowledge that I want to share with you now. So we are going to be hosting an interactive workshop with Cloud Direct. So the workshop is called Build a Microsoft 365 Strategy in 90 Minutes. So if you're still on the fence about moving to Microsoft 365, or you know someone in your organization that has qualms about dealing with this decision, then definitely recommend that they come and get involved with ourselves and Cloud Direct at this interactive workshop. So we've got a bit of a spiel here. The truth is, moving to Microsoft 365 isn't always a walk in the park. There may be several barriers you come up against blocking your smooth migration. But don't worry, we're here to help. We've partnered up with Cloud Direct to help you map out a clear migration journey that breaks down any barriers to achieve your modern workplace goals. So the three key areas we're going to be covering in this interactive workshop for Microsoft 365 is to how to overcome technical barriers such as identity management, email and file storage, the importance of change management, so identify internal blockers standing in your way of adopting Microsoft 365, and then create your own blueprint. Along this content, you will be completing your blueprint to successfully implement and adopt Microsoft 365, overcoming any barriers that may be in your way. Now we have a registration page for that. They're listed at the bottom of the page. I will be putting that into the chat at the end of the session if you are interested in looking into that or registering for that event. Again, at Combined Knowledge, it's been a very busy period for us, even with the current situation going on. We've been looking at our content and making major changes to that. We've got a couple of courses that are being revisited and kind of revitalized in the downtime that we're obviously the kind of world is experiencing, as well as the new Microsoft Lists for End Users course. So Microsoft has recently updated its Lists application. It's kind of finally released out into the wild. It's slowly becoming available for everybody to use. We're well on the way to creating a new end user course for that. So if you are interested in utilizing Microsoft Lists, which will happily and easily and almost like it was designed this way, work and integrate with Power Automate seamlessly. So definitely keep your ear to the ground for that one. And our Powerapps course, a very popular course, we are again revitalizing that one, bringing in new techniques that we've learned and enhancing that as well. Now, as part of that, we also have a new one-day SharePoint online branding course. So if you are interested in changing the way your SharePoint online sites look. It's very difficult to do out of the box. We've got a one-day course for you on that. We also have a lot of new and improved content for our Training Plus platform. So we've got the complete Office suite, entry level or basic level, introduction level videos have been all reworked to include all the latest changes to Outlook, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. We've also added in Microsoft Forms, and Microsoft's To Do is also going to be listed on Training Plus very shortly. Now, for those of you not familiar with Training Plus is our on-demand learning solution. So this is an application that allows you to be installed within your Office 365 or Microsoft 365 environment, and users can quickly and easily get to the video content, very similar to what we've experienced here today in the training that we publicly and privately do, step-by-steps on how to complete certain scenarios, additional training on demand. So when users are available, we have a number of unique features for our on-demand online training. We can do something called deep links, where we can link directly into a particular video, so you can share this almost anywhere within your web world. You can share into Teams or into SharePoint. We can also custom and brand the videos as well to suit your organization's needs. We can include logos and branding and colors, and we can integrate with any LMS systems as well. So if you have a learning management system and you're interested in enhancing your content there, then Training Plus is definitely the solution that you want to look at. Again, we've got more information on our website for that. Again, the link will be available in the chat at the end of the session. We've got a little bit of information there on how the pricing structure of that works. However, at the moment there is an offer going on. So if a Training Plus solution is purchased throughout September and or October, there will be 2 free places on any public training course up and coming for the remainder of the 2020. So there is a bit of a note there at the bottom. So depending on the course length will depend on the savings against that. So 7 days, there is a 7-day trial of Training Plus available as well for you and up to 10 users, so you can evaluate and see if there are any benefits to using the Training Plus solution. So if you are involved in training your team or organization in any way, do thoroughly recommend you checking that out. We get lots of positive feedback, and the videos themselves are updated regularly, and they are immediately available to you. They're all hosted within the cloud, so there's very little required in terms of infrastructure for you there. So this offer is available for customers who wish to purchase the complete Office 365 package, and the courses that we've got listed there, not only are they the up and coming courses that we've got available in the next few months, the public courses that is, but they're also covered by this offer. So we've got Office 365 for power users, Microsoft's Power BI, SharePoint Online for admin or power users. Those are a few days long, those courses. We've got Powerapps, Power Automate. I've got a number of different courses, so definitely have a look through that list and check out our website. If you are interested in receiving a trial demo or an in-depth demo, then definitely contact my lovely colleague Katie on her email or by calling us on our telephone number from the website. And I thoroughly recommend you do that. So thank you to everyone for sticking around and listening to all of that. It's obviously quite a whirlwind session. I do thoroughly recommend you check out the 1-day Power Automate training, and if you want to expand on the Power Platform further, definitely the Powerapps training as well. They link up rather well together. So keep an eye out for our next feedback webinar that we're going to be doing hopefully very soon. Definitely keep in touch if you can. And I am going to stick around for questions, so for probably about 15-20 minutes with any questions you've got. But if you want to email me any questions as well, definitely send them across to me at simon.gray@combine-knowledge.com. So we'll be awarding the £50 for users who have. I want you to place the tag in the comments of the chat window if you can, with your email address. If you put the hash Powerautomate in the chat, or the questions, and your email, I'll put your name into the prize draw. So again, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Hope to hear from you very soon.